of the podcast Druga, Pita. Welcome to our fourth episode. Joining me today is Miss Amira Sadikovic, a long-time university professor and interpreter and translator. Miss Sadikovic, welcome, please.
Hello, and thank you very much for this invitation.
It's a pleasure to have you. So firstly, I'd like to talk to you about why or how you got into academia. What sort of motivated you all these years to remain a constant, a true academic?
Well, I started my professional life as the war was starting in Bosnia and Hercegovina, and by pure accident, I ended up working for the United Nations. I spent a number of years working for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. I worked in Bosnia, I worked in Croatia, and I worked in Central Africa. And when the war was over, when I thought that my aid work had come to an end at that stage in my life, I accidentally met a former professor of mine who explained to me that it was his regret that I had left academia and I should come back. So I thought, why not? Because teaching is very similar to aid work in terms of human impact, in terms of you invest and you see the results of your work in another human being in the most beautiful way. So that's the teaching part of academia that I enjoy the most.
So can you share some experiences or some anecdote that you've had maybe with your students or with other young people that maybe shaped the way you think or that have shaped you in your professional life?
When I joined the academia, I decided that my teaching and the training I provide will always be focused on what my students need when they leave school, what it is they will truly encounter once they're in the job market. And some students find that a bit surprising because they expect something more formally academic in some respects. But the greatest thing and the fun thing is when I work on either a translation or when I work at a conference and I actually sit in the booth with a former student. That's always fun, but that's always a great satisfaction that my student, with at least my help to some extent, is actually doing the same job.
Of course. So you've been working with the university for many years and you've been a professional and an academic, as you just said, for many years. So you don't think, well, in your experience, what's the position of young people towards English as a subject and towards interpreting and towards, academia in general?
There's no general statement that would cover all that. English is the lingua franca of the world today, but using English for professional purposes in other fields is not the same as devoting yourself to English or any language academically. Linguistics is something else, literature is something else. So there is still considerable interest among young people interested in the humanities to study English language, to study linguistics, to study literature. Some think that the level of English they have is sufficient for whatever else they want to do in life, and they do have commendable levels of knowledge. But there is a generally positive attitude, sometimes in some students a bit of reluctance to sort of let go and use language with greater ease. But the key thing with English, like with any language, unless you use it, it's not real knowledge. Real knowledge is what you can benefit from in your life.
Of course. And so what would you maybe characterize or think of as main problems to, as you just said, youth being reluctant to use their knowledge of English or to studying English and in general?
When you say studying English, do you mean studying English for general use or studying English for professional purposes, like in my case?
Yes, professional purposes.
It's about how young people start studying, because we live in a society and the time of unequal opportunities. If given the right opportunities, any young person can learn and progress in any field, including foreign languages, not just one. But not everybody is given the same opportunities. So if given the right opportunities, and that is where I believe is the responsibility of adults. When given the right opportunities, everybody can progress. So it is our responsibility, but also the responsibility of, say, students who have opportunities to share them with those who don't. But we, as human beings, should strive towards equal opportunities for everybody in everything, including what we have access to and what we have the opportunity to learn for the benefit of the quality of our life as adults.
So are there any specific projects or initiatives that you are a part of, or maybe that you are aware of, that aim on empowering youth on, well, joining actually academia, being translators, or joining that field of work?
I have the privilege of teaching young people, because teaching is a privilege and responsibility. And I can always also be very pushy in making them take whatever opportunities present themselves. So the project of my lifetime, so to speak, is to help young professionals find their place in the job market and find themselves in the profession that I still think is one of the greatest there are, translation and interpreting, because the whole purpose of what we do is to allow cultures to communicate and thus make the world a better place.
And is there a goal or a specific idea or a thought that guided you through your works and, well, through your work and through your expertise and through your studies? And is that something maybe you could, or well, that you do share with your current students?
In everything you do the best you can. Literally in everything you do. If you're doing housework, do the best you can. If you're writing homework, do the best you can. If you're learning how to jump into the sea properly, head first, do the best you can. If you're hoping to become an academic, do the best you can. If you want to be an interpreter, do the best you can. Literally in everything you do, just do the best you can and you'll be fine.
And what advice would you give to maybe any rising interpreters or any rising or young professors or teachers of languages?
For young or future interpreters or translators, the knowledge of language is only the starting point. There's so much more that we must learn, explore, research, prepare for, to be the mediators that we really are between cultures, individuals, situations, content of any kind. So do the work, because only doing the work is the way for you to obtain serious results.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
And on that note, thank you very much also, dear listeners, for listening.